Hello and welcome to oNiD Community Racing. This is your Thursday night iRacing league here for the SimHound Super Formula Lights. Round 2 with an asterisk after last week's eventfulness of the server, but we are here for Fuji Speedway with 19 cars currently in server ready to go racing and going qualifying actually very shortly for the first of 2 races. 30 minutes or 15 laps, whichever comes first. Safety cars may cause that to change in the comments booth with me as again this evening. Thank you, Scotty. It's good to have you back.
It is great to be back, and it's great to be taking a trip over to Fuji, a track we used last year on a Sato course, a track we're becoming ever more familiar with the Mon Ultimate. For the first time, we're seeing it here on iRacing, and well, it'll be great to take these Super Formula Lights around, weighing 578 kilos roughly with 275 horsepower. They will be quick round here. It will be interesting to see how much downforce the drivers have stuck onto their cars with that long, over a kilometre long start-finish straight from the final corner all the way to the heavy braking zone of T1. It'll be interesting to see how our drivers fare, and qualifying just getting started. It'll be interesting to see who can put it on pole for our sort of first official round now after the events of last week.
Yes,
and get
absolutely.
themselves a little head start for the championship fight.
Absolutely. So we now wait to see what happens. Qualifying underway. It's open qualifying again, split between the 2 classes. Unfortunately, you can't quite see them on our timing towers. Unfortunately, these split between the 2 classes, so we had to go for the overall runnings. But there are 2 separate classes, and the drivers are aware. But for purposes of stream, we'll just look at the overalls. So, but roughly about half the field out for the first 10 minutes, and then the second part of the field will go out for the final 10 minutes of qualifying, and that will determine the grid for race 1. Race 1 will happen, and then we'll have the results from that race, and it will be top 10 inverted for race number 2. Both races, as it said, half-hour time length or 15 laps, whichever comes first. First driver on lap actually here will be Bottleston, who comes to the line. It looks like Tomlinson actually is first to the line, but has started a lap, so it is Bottleston. Wherever he is going down through turn 2 and 3. We'll follow Bottleston as he starts the first. It will be the first representative lap for this evening.
Try not to run wide on the exit of T3, using quite a lot of the curb, and well, obviously being the first driver to complete the first sector, sets a purple time Tomlinson taking it. I have 100R into the hairpin, using all of the track on the exit, getting onto the curb. Gotta be careful. I can unsell the car as you try and put the 275 horsepower down from the 3-cylinder engine that the Super Firm lights have. Now down to the chicane, heavy braking zone here into the chicane. Not using too much of the inside curb there. They want to try and straight line the second bar as much as possible. Yeah, not too much curb usage there through the chicane for Bertolfsson. Then get into this twisty final sector, over the crest, through the right-hander. The car wants to understeer, and then try and brake while turning in for this left-hander. Corner tightens up, so you get that sort of late apex. Don't run too wide on the exit. Short run then to the final corner, very similar again. Track starts turning in. You've got to slow the car down while turning it in. Very difficult, tricky final sector, and very important exit of the final corner as it leads you onto this kilometre-long start-finish straight, and it is a long run to the start-finish line, which is more than halfway down the straight. Bertolfsson will be the first car to complete a lap. They set a benchmark of 135.266. Mike Pfeiffer's coming up to line. Purple in the second sector, purple in the third sector. They will set a new benchmark, 33.5. Ben Holmes with 35.2, just narrowly beating out Bertolfsson. Tom Watson across the line now, a few seconds off of the drivers. Start to gain some confidence, get some temperature into the tyres as well for this third 10-minute half of the session. Coming up to the line, we've now got Tillotson, who's like to be a bit of a slower lap, taking a bit of time to come up. And yeah, we'll slot into P5. Charlie Morgan just behind them, having a bit of a slow lap. But Mike Pfeiffer's on their second lap now, saying a purple first sector.
Indeed they are, and as we jump to him, Williams has a half spin. He saves it from going off the circuit, but we'll be calling that lap quits. We now actually follow Mike Pfeiffer's as he's going through the chicane up through second sector. He's about to come up now. It's going to be another purple. It's going to be another purple sector, and by quite a margin as well. Up through the final sector, mostly uphill, tricky braking, turning and braking, two things the cars don't like to do at the same time, and on the power onto the curb, just about keeps two wheels on the circuit, will ensure the lap is still valid. Uses up ample amount of curb on the exit of the final 10, and it's just take a breather, put your right foot down, keep it in a straight line, and hope for the best. Comes to the line, Mike Pfeiffer's purple fastest second sector will come to the line to set a 133.3.2 of a second faster than he was previously able to do.
Yeah, it sets the new benchmark for all the other drivers to try and find, using all of the curb on the exit of T1. Next up cross line will be Pfeiffer's, set their first foul lap of session. They slot into P5. Jared Page also saying their first valid lap of session. They'll pop in to P8 at the moment. Tillotson might be next. And Charlie Morgan, I believe, not too far behind. Will be trying to get a little bit of a slipstream, yeah, if they can. Don't think they're quite close enough, but with these high downforce open wheel cars, you can get slipstream from quite a way back. Tillotson doesn't improve. Charlie Morgan doesn't look to have set a valid lap either. Session is more than halfway through the AM part of session, so drivers will need to get a lap on the board. Dan Tomlinson, another one of the drivers, yet to put time on the board. Coming up to the line now, it is a very long run to the line. Will it be a valid lap? I think it is. Wait for the time to pop up. No, it does not seem to be valid. Next to cross line will be Runnar Bertolfsson, currently sitting in second, but looks like maybe a mistake in the final sector. I don't think this is an improvement for them, and it is not a tenth off their quickest time so far. Pfeiffer, so up to line, looking to improve, will improve, goes a couple of attempts quicker, and looks like they're going to pull over and Beal back to pit lane, having set 33.303 is the benchmark. Tom Watson, next cross line, two personal best sectors, try and get themselves closer to the top, and Wayne Basson following them through, both at the same times. Watson up to P5, Basson just in front in P4. Pfeiffer's across the line now. It doesn't look like that lap was valid. Right, next again, another attempt for Tillotson, and Charlie Morgan needs a time on the board. Time is running out in the session. He's again hoping for a little bit of slipstream. But don't want to be too close, don't want to be affected by the dirty air, especially through that technical final sector. Tilton does improve. Charlie Morgan puts in their first time 1.5 seconds off Pfeiffer's benchmark at the moment. Currently good enough for P5.
Cheeky Todo start finish line for Morgan, getting that lap time in. Now that's going to matter, especially to go into the race. That long 1 kilometre straight is going to be an absolute slipstream fest. Who's going to tuck into the toes? We don't make those moves into turn 1. For now, using it for qualifying and getting a better time there, but a couple of these drivers are going along on their own, really, not finding like a slipstream buddy for this qualifying session, which is maybe something they're missing out on a little bit.
It can be a bit of a risk if the car in front of you makes a mistake at the wrong point and that ruins your lap, or the dirty air following another car, especially through some of the high-speed corners. Turn 3 at 100R that quickly follows it would be corners that you don't want to be too close to the car in front of you. Tom Watson crossing line with improvement, but not good enough to make up aim positions. Basson not improving on that latest lap. Dennis Pfeiffer's. We've got the two Pfeiffer's racing. Mike Pfeiffer's at the top of the standings. Dennis Pfeiffer's currently in 7th, 1.6 seconds off. Craig Tilton will be next to across line with Charlie Morgan still in hot pursuit.
You know what might help us with that? With those names, Scotty, you know, it might help us if I just click a button here.
Yes, that would certainly be helpful. Stilton and Morgan improving. Tilton into P8, Morgan up into the top 3, just getting in front of Ben Holmes, but just missing out on beating Bertolfsson. Dan Tomlinson, who struggled with a couple of invalid laps to start the session, coming up to the line, improving in the first sector, slower in the middle sector, though. Have they found some time? They have indeed, and it is just enough to shoot up into P2 by less than half a tenth. Look at the difference between Tomlinson to Basson, less than 2 tenths cover those 5 cars. That will certainly be very tasty when it comes to the race. But Bertolfsson, though, is looking to respond. Personal best in the first sector, does respond, gets themselves to within a second of Mike Pfeiffer's time, and back into P2. Basson and Tom Watson are behind, but on not improving sectors. As we hit the halfway part of the session, it's now time for the pros to make their way to the track. I believe the AM drivers are allowed to still finish their laps. As you can see, Charlie Morgan, Dan Tomlinson, 2 cars improving in the opening sector. And we'll scratch that for Charlie Morgan, facing sideways across the track with a spin. This is now Jarrett Page coming through the final sector, improving in the middle sector, has a couple of seconds to find, but trying to trail brake into the left-hander of turn 14, loses rear end and goes for a little spin. Next car behind them is Dan Tomlinson, swinging the car into the final corner. Hasn't improved in the middle sector, but I said improving in the first sector. Now coming up to the line, only lost 7 thousandths in the middle sector this lap. So as long as the first sector improvement was good and they kept the final sector neat and tidy, which looks like they've not improved in the final sector, is an improvement over on the lap. Gains a 10th, but not enough to challenge Bertolfsson in second, who is going to be the last of our AM drivers to finish a lap. Not improving in any sector at the moment, but really the only improvement they can really find here is in overall position. They sit solidly second place in AMS. Does improve at the end, brings the gap down to 666. But that is the end of the session for them. I'm sure they'll be happy with that improvement. And it is time for the pro drivers to start their laps, starting with Joe Pinder, much more bunched up here as the drivers slipstream their way to turn 1.
Indeed they do. Pinder, Griefson, Andrews and Andrews. Again, 2 Andrews. Goodness gracious, trying to confuse us here in the comments booth. Joe Pinder will be first to start a lap and will be towing Griefson along quite nicely, actually. As Griefson's actually looks to be a bit more compromised now at this point, and looks like maybe backed off a little bit as they're going to start fighting qualifying. That's not the purpose of qualifying, folks. And they need to figure it out as Pinder goes a little bit wide. Luke Andrews have going purple in the background, beating Mike Pfeiffer's first sector time of 1:33.303. We'll keep an eye on that. And these guys, unfortunately, are going to get a bit tangled up with each other. They might need to just back off one another and find their own bit of space. Try and set a lap. Luke Andrews, however, following behind, will actually now start to get compromised with these guys as well. As he now catches up with a purple first sector. Middle sector will be compromised. It'll be a personal best. It's not the quickest, and that's not going to help his course. Pinder, unfortunately, is trying to slow find a gap. And we may just have to wait for a little while longer to see if Piper's time will still stand after this session. And indeed, Luke Andrews elected just to pull off the circuit.
Just waiting, letting the train of cars go through. As we mentioned, yes, the slipstream might be nice, but how much do you want to risk? How much can you lose throughout the rest of the lap or get hindered by traffic? So first car across the line will be Adam Greaveson in the number 54. It'll be good enough for P3 out of the AM drivers. Plenty of drivers to come, but of course their first flying laps, they'll still be getting the tyres up to temperature with all the high-speed corners. So don't expect to see really representative times. See all the cars sort of filtering into the middle of the AM driver field. Aiden Carter saying an identical time to Dennis Pfeiffer's in P9 and 10. But we will see improvements from everyone on their second laps. Greaveson then, you can see already, purple first sector, not being beat by everyone else, a little bit wide out of turn 6 or across the curb. It's going to compromise their momentum, and as they come down to the chicane, and someone else has taken that purple first sector into the chicane now for Greaveson. Gets the car slowed down, turned in nicely, use a little bit of second apex curb. Looks like good traction, as you can see the field following in line. We'll go on board with Greaveson into the final sector. Nice neat line. Bit of a tight line on the entry. You can see the rear end starting to slide there. Had to have a little correction. Gain on the exit, correcting just a little bit into the final corner now. Swing the car in. Traction looks good. And so run to the line. No purple sectors at the moment for Greaveson. Can they get themselves in front of all our AM runners? Up to line, it is a long run. There is the line there. Now it is a purple final sector and it is top of the board. 33.0 is the benchmark, but look at this slipstream up to the line for the orange car. Pinder still trying to find time. Munro will be 1.2 seconds off. Maybe got compromised into T1. Blomqvist will be a little bit off. 14 thousandths back from Munro, and Luke Andrews goes, I believe, Luke Andrews. Andrews goes into P3. Just 4 tenths off the top. Ian Carter slotting in behind by a few hundredths.
Indeed he does. Staples goes to 60th. It's nothing it's an improvement in time, but not in position. Top 5 split by 1 second now as Carter, Andrews and Greaveson sets their times, and they are going back on another lap. They have enough time to do so. Enough time to get a couple more laps in, so not all completed as of yet. Joe Pinder, however, good first sector. Adam Greaveson up ahead of him, also on a lap, but is again Joe Pinder. Nothing he's going to do about it. He's going to continue to finish his lap. There's cars behind him. Maybe he's getting a little bit frustrated, potentially a little bit quicker than him as he goes wide into the penultimate turn and might have actually overstepped the track limits there. This lap actually might not be valid. He decides to go defensive for the cars behind and takes a bit more of an inside line. Gets onto the accelerator, but it's not going to be an improvement here, I don't think. Greaveson 33.053. I do apologise, 33.249 should I say. It's not an improvement, loses time in the final sector as Pinder does come to the line, but it's going to be crowded out with cars all around him at the moment. Andrews goes up to 9th in that little gaggle of cars as well. And the other Andrews, Luke Andrews, a new pole position time of 132.7, first man into the 132s. And Adams responding.
Greaveson responding with a purple
Never
first.
mind. Oh, what's a purple first sector?
We'll have time for another lap so they can get going. That first sector, by the way, was about 6 hundredths quicker than the Gandry's fastest sector one, or actually a 10th quicker than the sector they put on their final on their fastest lap. So Graveson, they know they have the time in the first sector, but have they maybe damaged the tyre a little too much to go for one final lap and retake pole position? We're now following Aiden Carter, who also looks like a lock of the rear brakes as they go into the chicane and will go for a spin themselves.
It's commentator's curse, and it's fine, isn't it? He follows someone, they suddenly have a spin.
Yep, so we now head to Luca Munro, who's coming to the end of their lap. No personal best sectors at the moment, but a lot of time can be found in the final sector with just how technical it is. Elvin Blomqvist getting a slowdown as they were improving. I believe that's him just in front out of the final corner. But up to the line now for Munro. 42.3 does not improve, will sit in P6 with two AM drivers in front of them. They will have one final chance to set qualifying time as Graveson is on for another lap through turn 3, swinging the car in, and they are, it's not personal best, but they are quicker than Luke Andrews was on their fastest lap by 0.04 of a second.
Ooh.
Can they keep the time in the middle sector wide out of turn 6? That will compromise them once again. How badly? We've seen quite a few drivers making that mistake now, so maybe it's not too bad. Into the chicane now for the Andrews, up to the orange marking on the inside curb. Looks neat and tidy. What will split time is a personal best in the middle sector.
Oh, moment. Oh, that rear steps out as he turns in. He went into that right hander up there, starting to go up the hill. Okay, that's going to cost him time, and the tyres I think are gone. I think he's taken up too much out of tyres.
Yeah, I think that spin has damaged the tyres in that middle sector, despite being a personal best.
Nope.
Leaves him 2/10 off the top time, pushing too hard through the final corner, runs wide, and it will not be the pole position lap for Graveson. Out of the final corner then for Luca Munro with car just behind. That must be, Elvin Blomqvist. Trying to use the slipstream up to the line. They will be the last two cars to set a lap in qualifying. Munro does improve and just pips, but Dolphson to take P5. Blomqvist's time was not valid, and so that will be the end of our qualifying session with 19 drivers in. Luke Andrews taking pole position.
Indeed it is. So let's go to the when app likes to work, that'd be nice. Luke Andrews takes pole from Graveson, Pfeiffer's Carter, Monroe Bottleson, Bloomquist, Tomlinson, Andrews, Morgan. It's Holmes, Basson, Pfeiffer's, Tillotson, Pinder, Watson, Staples, Page. And we then have Terry Williams, which will show at the end. There we go. Not setting the time, Williams. In his qualifying stint. We'll hopefully see him go racing, but obviously not qualifying, not going well for him. Similar to Jarrett Page, 5 seconds off the pole time.
Yeah, Fuji can be a tricky track to get used to. So a couple of drivers struggling. But as we've seen last week at Spa, when drivers are fighting for position, things can get quite intense. Opportunities can arise, so that's what those drivers have to wait for. You can see all the cars grading up now as we get ready for our first of 2 races this evening. As I mentioned earlier, the race will either go to 15 laps or 30 minutes, whichever comes first. We should see the 15 laps first if we don't have any safety cars like what we had last week. But you can see, I think that is all of our cars graded up now. The lights come on to tell us that the race is about to begin. The engine revs will rise, and we're away for the start. Graveson gets a brilliant launch compared to Andrews from pole position. We'll have the inside towards turn 1. You can see drivers defending and try and go back to the racing line. Is nearly 3 wide, sort of blocked out wide. That allows Aiden Carter with a good start to cut back and take P2. Cars, a couple of cars spinning in the background, but Tolson unfortunately dropping to the back, and Jared Page falling still back for the field as well. Everyone fighting away in the mid-pack. Looks like all of our other drivers have got through cleanly.
Luke Andrews! Oh, he saves it for going in the wall, does Andrews.
Trying to rejoin safely on the inside. Does just about, but will drop from pole position all the way down to 13th place now, slotting in behind Tom Watson. Devastating start for Andrews.
That absolutely is. We'll have to fight back through those positions, as it is himself, Basson and Tillotson all running the same livery. I think there are teammates there in those three positions that are now clumped together as move up the inside. Doesn't really work there for Basson, and Adam Grieveson will take the will retain the lead. Joe Pinder losing out also to Philip Staples. So side by side going into the final turn, but it is Adam Grieveson leads away. Mike Pfeiffer is also going very wide there, as that is Joe Pinder going very, very wide, as you've had a spin as well. Jarrett Page dropping down the order too. However, it is in the lead. Grieveson leading the way from Q Controls Reparto Corse. Gap of 0.8 of a second. Joe Pinder now fighting away once again with a couple of cars, as Charlie Morgan has had a crash. We are going to try and get some of these replays. I was showing on my screen Charlie Morgan going off circuit, as indeed he's fallen down the order. Let's try and get a quick replay of what happened at the start. It was Charlie Morgan and Runar Bottleson.
Yeah, so coming down into T1, can see Batulson on the inside has a little snatch, and then just trying to apply the power on the cold tires. Batulson spins the car round, and yeah, Charlie Morgan, I think, checking up to avoid it, just slows down. I'll say it here. A very tight line, that little outside front lock puts Batulson a little bit wide, and yeah, just lack of grip and traction there. Avoids the wall, so we'll be able to carry on. Fell down to 18th, already up to 15th, taking advantage of a couple of other mistakes. Charlie Morgan got a slow down coming out of the final corner, I think, going wide. And here's that moment with Andrews just about holding on to the car, trying to do whatever they can to rejoin safely, which is great to see from the Andrews, not getting too frustrated.
I'm just going to rewind that to see actually how that happened. He caught the latter stage of that incident. I do wonder if he was encouraged round, or no, it was just himself.
Nope. Just lost the rear end. Maybe the setup he's running, trying to maximise the straight line speed down the start-finish straight. Just a little low on the arrow. Cold tires still, obviously, and not able to catch that slide. Battles as they come down start-finish straight. Grieveson being caught up by Ian Carter, who set the fastest lap for the race last time round. But we're looking at this battle for P8. Tomlinson leading. Dennis Pfeiffer is just in front of Luke Andrews and Joe Pinder, who are fighting side by side into turn 3. Andrews with the inside will take that place and back up into the P10, recovering from that spin that we just seen. Basson getting themselves in front of Tom Watson for 13th place, a little further back. And next on the list is Dennis Pfeiffer's for Andrews as they make their recovery drive.
Indeed they do. Tillotson is having a torrid time at the moment down in sadly down towards the back of the grid. Hastron's having a crash, and oh, that is a spin. That's too much curb on the inside. Well, does get going once more. However, we go back to this midfield pack of cars, and leaders are now getting quite close to one another. 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second between the two, as they are just about to come to the start finish straight, and that is
Pinder on the inside there of Dennis Pfeiffer's, and Pfeiffer's trying to come back there side by side into the final corner. Pinder with the inside, but Pfeiffer's is going to try and get the cutback, but will be right there in a perfect slipstream opportunity. But it's going to be side by side, not just between these two, but Ian Carter has got alongside and has got the nose in front on the racing line as we head down into T1. Braking on the outside. Grieveson holding the inside, but won't be able to carry the momentum. And Aidan Carter with the run out of turn 1 will get the move done into turn 3, running a little bit defensive. Can just back to the racing line as they enter. But Ian Carter with track position now, the lead for the race. Can they pull out a gap, or will Grieveson chase them back down? Save tighter line for Carter into turn 16. A couple of drivers struggle here in qualifying. Carter running out wide, but looks like still able to carry enough momentum to not be under too much threat into the chicane. Very tight, the chicane, very difficult to make a move stick here, is quite risky as they come through the chicane. Now this will be the hardest part to follow for Greaveson through this technical final sector, as you're trying to turn the car under braking while going through the dirty air. You could very easily just have the car slide away from underneath you, making a mistake or run out wide out of this final corner, as we've seen already from quite a few drivers, and nearly runs out wide, just about keeps it on the track. Has dropped back half a second to Carter, and can see immediately pulling over to the inside line to break the slipstream. But I think on this occasion, Greaveson is just going to be a little too far back. But you can see on the interval just how much they are closing. Another fastest lap of the race for Aidan Carter as they come across the line, and despite being half second back into the braking zone, Greaveson is alongside. A little bit of a front lock up there. It was actually locked for quite a long time as they got the car turned into the corner, but Carter has held off for now. Meanwhile, Ben Holmes trying to fight for P6. Both Andrews behind them. It's Toby Andrews trying to make the move on the inside of turn 3 here. Will Ben Holmes brave it round the outside? It is very brave. They will indeed. And good respect from Toby on the inside, and Luke Andrews in the background trying to take advantage of this, but struggling to find the space. Again, Ben Holmes turning in from the outside and holding on to P6 for now. Toby Andrews is going to have to look in the rear view mirror. Bit of a run here for Luke Andrews. Bit of defensive move, looking to the racing line, but Toby Andrews staying in front, the concertina up into the chicane. A little bit wide there of the apex for Ben Holmes for the first part, and that just shuffles everyone that little bit closer to the inside. Luke Andrews is going to try and get the move done here, but with the momentum on the outside, Toby Andrews looks to hold on for now. We'll have the inside into the left-hander here, but it's going to be roles reversed as Luke tries to go for the cutback. Can't quite make it work, but forces a defensive line from Toby into the final corner. That might allow Luke to have a better exit, which they do indeed. But both of these drivers are going to want the slipstream from Ben Holmes in front, but just able to slow in front. Luke Andrews does clear the overlap, can tuck into the slipstream, but might not be all clear from Toby. Into turn 1, Toby's thinking about it, looking to the inside, does commit to a move very late on, and they do run a little bit wide, but they will keep the move. Luke Andrews, in a way, laying them through, maybe a little bit worried, wanted to avoid any contact, and will still be in P8 despite following so closely for the entire last lap.
Yeah, absolutely. That was more of a, oh, you're coming, okay, I'm coming, you're going to come through, okay, that's fine, I'll let you through kind of move there. Obviously both maybe communicated with each other a little bit there, and if they've got the same last name, I would presume they're related, possibly brothers, like we have had confirmation from the Pipers that they are also brothers as well. So it's nice to see a nice community racing becoming a bit of a family affair for some in iRacing. As we talk about the Pipers, being overtaken by Baston for P11. He's now looking under threat from Bottleson actually not quite Bottleson, he's actually trying to follow Baston through a little bit there, isn't he? The 12th place car 16, as the move has been done, and my Pipers is starting to close, so we'll keep an eye on that. That's going to be another little battle. Speaking of Pipers, Mike Piper's turn to take the screen, as he's now got the inside line on Alvin Blinkcrest, although comes out of the slipstream, looks to have slowed down a little bit as he hits the air of the car. Greaveson's hadn't made a mistake, lost time to Carter, but up the inside goes Piper's later on the brakes, goes a little bit wide, just about keeps it in track limits, keeps a couple of wheels on the red and white curb. May get a finger wagging from that from iRacing if we do that too many more times, but for now he's got a P4.
Yep, into P4 as the older brother loses a place. The younger brother able to get themselves up into P4. Having qualified P3, he'll be looking to try and chase down Munro. He's only a couple of seconds up the road to see if they can reclaim another position, as Dan Tomlinson with issues here on the outside of 100R. I wonder if this was assisted. No, it looks like they've done this all by themselves through turn 3. Oh, a little bit wide, the exit curb of turn 3, spinning the car round big low smoke as they slide sideways across the track. That's going to do their tyres no good, and it's going to be a bit of a struggle for the second half of this race.
Yeah, it's going to hurt him. Lap 7 out of 15, I think. If we keep on where we're going, it's going to be 15 laps before... Oh, that's a spin!
Ooh.
Pfeiffer's!
Losing the rear end under traction out of turn 14 in heavy into the wall. I think has realised the suspension too badly damaged, has to tow back to the pit lane, and that is effectively going to be the end of their race. Unfortunately, was fighting hard to try and hold on to position, but just in heat of battle, losing the rear end of their car. Fight now for the final top 10 position. Remember, this is pole for our reverse grade second race. To the inside goes Basson, and looks like Stable's not fighting that one too hard on the outside. We'll let that one go, and Basson now set to start at the front of the field for our upcoming second race, but still we'll have 6.5 laps to go of this race. Still time to get a few more positions, get a few more points in the championship for them, even if it will drop them down the grid order for our upcoming race. Meanwhile, as we've been looking back throughout the battles through the field, Adam Greaveson has closed up a little bit again on Aidan Carter, has taken the fastest lap of the race, which does give a couple of bonus points in the championship, 2 points to be exact, which is a nice little bonus for them. They did lose out 2.5 tenths to Aidan Carter last lap. We'll get updated lap times as they come across the line this time around. Greaveson just looks to be a little further back than when they were challenging earlier, but they were 3 tenths quicker than Aidan Carter last lap, as you can see in top left of your screen. Closing in, not close enough for a move into T1 this time round. A little bit tighter on the apex, and we were talking of fastest laps. A little further back, Luke Andrews in their recovery drive has now taken that fastest lap by 200ths of a second over Greaveson, whose fastest lap itself is only 200ths quicker than Aidan Carter's fastest lap.
There's been an incident in the background. Toby Andrews has potentially come into contact with another car. Pfeiffer's, see what happened with him. Pfeiffer's back out on the circuit. It's saying it had contact with Dennis Pfeiffer's and Toby Andrews. So let's see what happened. I'm not sure if this is a car exiting the pits after having a quick repair, getting in contact with Toby Andrews.
Yeah, Pfeiffer slows down, sees the pack coming. That's Spitolfson on the inside of one car, then does get
separate instance. Yeah, because that's Toby Andrew off ahead of them in turn 1. So I think the timing app has recognised Des Piper slowing down so much. Thought it was a crash. It wasn't, but the actual incident was here. Toby Andrews, and that was just an unsettled car going across through the curb on turn 1.
Yep, and there goes Spitolfson as they try and fight the 91 car of Philip Staples, who themselves made that mistake. Move for the lead. Greaveson to the inside, locking up, and Carter having to take avoiding action, saving their front wing there. But drama as we go back to the front of the field.
We are going to get. I'm going to actually stick with this because it looks like Carter's going to try and get back past in the very near future. I will note that replay just to go back and see how that overtake happened. That looked like a very late move potentially from Greaveson, but made the move work. Staples has dropped a position and gone off circuit. He's having issues of his own in midfield. But let's just stick with this lead battle for now because it's not over yet. Aidan Carter's got to run and possibly into the next chicane.
Defending the inside is Greaveson, but late, so the underbraking for Carter. They thought they were going to get that done, but they turned out of the corner, maybe thinking it was a little too risky. They were too likely to come together on the apex, knowing that that kilometre-long straight is coming in just a few corners time. Sticking under that rear wing is Ian Carter. Certainly being this close, they'll be able to make an easy move into T1. Just needs a good run through the final corner. You can see Greaveson trying to compromise the entry ever so slightly to get the best exit possible. A little bit of weaving there, that's a little bit harsh. but just holding the inside line as tightly as they can. Ian Carter will have no choice but to go to the outside here, but with the momentum that they have, they might be able to clear Greaveson before the braking zone. Can they? Can they? They won't quite be able to do it. Greaveson later on the brakes can get slowed down for turn 1. Does indeed, takes a good line. I thought that was a little bit deep, but still carries enough momentum on the exit to hold on to the lead. Aidan Carter, though, is not done attacking. This will be a race right to the end. Bounce on the inside curb for Carter, sends him a little wide over the exit curb, but they keep the car facing the right way.
This was earlier on. I was going to try and find the other replay from turn 1. Here it is. Slipstream has a run. And I think it was actually a decent run for him there. I don't think anything wrong with it, per se. It's just had a good run and just locked up on the inside. So good overtaking there initially for Adam. Got him the lead. He's now been able to hold it.
Yeah, that lockup just caused them to go a little bit wider than Carter was expecting, and that's what caused that little bit of avoiding action that they had to take. Certainly looked much more dramatic when we just cut to on live images. But yeah, from that angle, certainly looked much cleaner and much fairer. We go back down. Basson has taken P9, but Tolson has got themselves back into the top 10 now. But we go back to the leaders. Once again, start-finish straight time is plenty slipstream, and even closer and getting alongside earlier on
contact.
is Aidan Carter. They bang wheels as Carter wants to squeeze Greaveson to the inside, but Greaveson wants to head back towards the racing line.
Steady.
Banging wheels as they give each other no leeway into T1 again. Is it going to be a rinse and repeat of last lap? It is indeed. Carter running a little bit wide. Will probably take a track limit for that, but is looking every which way to try and get past, as Greaveson is not giving them an extra inch to spare.
Absolutely not. Actually having a wonderful time here. In the background, it is Bottleson and Basson fighting away into turn 1. It looks like Bottleson has to yield to the number 9 card, number 10, the 994 card, the multicolored one, the blue, pink and white one, as he makes a move back up the inside into turn 3, and says, Basson, you know what, you can try and make your way past turn 1. That's not going to happen. Charlie Morgan having an issue, has come back onto the track, but Terry J. Williams has jumped to the pits. It might be just all on his own, sadly, into the chicane. Gets turned around. Was that a reason to return to the pits? It was. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe thinking that it was a bigger issue potentially with the car. It looked like it was a minor spin.
I mean, being sideways across the track on the racing line in that tight final
yes.
in that chicane with cars quickly approaching is reasonable and fair enough for quickly clearing themselves out of the way. But it is another run for Aidan Carter, or sorry, for Greaveson, retaking the lead here. And Carter trying to look for another way through, another lockup. You can see that front right is sort of just lifting in the air for Greaveson, which is causing the lockup. Here is the final corner. Aidan Carter with a send to the inside, brilliantly set up, and Greaveson running a little bit wide in reaction. But with that slipstream back towards turn 1, was able to retake the lead, and Ian Carter will have to try another time. By the way, Greaveson has retaken the fastest lap of the race by, once again, 200ths of a second. It seems to be a running thing. And a little further back, Luke Andrews has got themselves back up into P5 now, ahead of Elvin Blomqvist. Fighting here, Joe Pinder now being passed by Bertolfsson. And Basson, who themselves was recently passed by Bertolfsson, is going to try and follow through soon. A little bit wider there for Pinder, but some tighter line into turn 6. But it's going to be all eyes on their mirrors. You can see Basson trying to get a good exit. We'll have the slipstream towards the chicane, but as we've mentioned, it's not an easy move to make into the chicane with how tight it is. And Pinder's going to defend the position to the outside then for Basson, but can't make any move of it. A mistake from Aidan Carter this lap has dropped him 2 seconds off the lead.
Ooh. Interesting. It hasn't pinged up on our timing screen as to why that is. So unfortunately not going to be able to get a replay of that, but he has dropped time, and that may have just killed this battle as they now go on to the penultimate lap.
time is running out as we see the fight. Joe Pinder and Bertolfsson have pulled away a bit. Bertolfsson has pulled away a bit. It is now Staples fighting to try and get past Joe Pinder, and Basson now has been knocked out of the top 10 for the reverse grid. Wherever you are in this battle, you do not want to be 11th into turn 1. Basson just running a little bit deep on the outside. We'll have to sell for P11. Now, Mike Pfeiffer's in their attempt to try and chase Luca Monroe has got to slow down. That will probably end any chance they had of P3. As we see, fighting now through turn 3. Basson trying to come back at Joe Pinder through the long right-hander of 100R. Towards the hairpin, a little bit nearly onto the grass there for Joe Pinder. Compromises their line into the turn 6 hairpin. You can see Basson trying to get a better exit. Will they be able to get alongside? Not quite. It'll be the outside anyway for the chicane if they do. We see this last lap around before Staples managed to get past both of them, and it will be same again into the chicane. Time is running out for Basson if they want to get themselves into the top 10, get themselves into the reverse grid. Remember, there is not long to go. White flag is out as Greaveson crosses the line to start the final lap. But who will start on pole position for our second race?
That is the question. It could be any one of these drivers. Andrews having a fastest lap of the race, 132.885. As he goes across the line in 5th position. A recovery drive from him. What could have been is the question. He will be able to start on... we start in 6th position once the standards all been flipped on its head. All being well, that's Blomqvist doesn't catch him. He doesn't lose a position, or he might actually catch Mike Piper within a second. You never know. He may be starting 7th if he gets swapped to 4th. But for now, it is all about this P10 battle. Staples, Pinder, Basson. Who's it going to be for the reverse grid pole position? Still a lap to go, and it looks like Basson's really trying to close that into Joe Pinder. It goes a little bit wide through 100R, as Basson really closed out the gap, almost getting into the rear bumper, rear tail light of Joe Pinder, who will be looking to try and defend this for his life now. This pole position would be mighty for him if you can have it. We'll go to the inside for the chicane now. Later on the brakes, Basson is able to pull alongside, but such as the corner, it's not going to be good enough. We are briefly going to say congratulations to Greaveson for his win here. He will start P10. We Carter 9th for the reverse grid. In the background, Pfeiffer's and Monroe reasonably close together. It's going to be Monroe Pfeiffer's in this P10 battle. However, still all up for grabs. It'll be Bloomquist, Holmes, and then Bottleson. But it looks like this will be a P1 reverse grid for Joe Pinder. 0.9 of a second, so a car towing him along, giving him a bit of speed, and that's going to secure his P10 from Basson behind. That is your top 10 reverse grid. And in the background, Dan Tomlinson and Watson fighting away, and Tomlinson just pips Watson on the line by 0.025 of a second.
I was going to mention that long run to the start-finish line. Great opportunity to slipstream on the run to the line, give your opponent not much chance to defend. And that's exactly what Dan Tomlinson did. Everyone else was a little too far back to take advantage of it. But yes, well done, Joe Pinder, holding on to the reverse grid pole. Basson just unfortunately missing out. Well done, Philip Staples as well. Made up 8 places from where they qualified. So yeah, good race from them to get up into that reverse grid, and will subsequently start on the front row.
Indeed we will. So it's Greaveson that takes the win for race 1. Aidan Carter 2nd, Monroe 3rd, Pfeiffer's 4th, Andrews 5th, Bloomquist 6th, Holmes 7th, Bottleson 8th, Staples 9th, and Joe Pinder in 10th position. Now, top 10, chucking on its head. Pinder will be on pole from Staples to Bottleson, Holmes, Bloomquist, Andrews, Pfeiffer's, Monroe, Carter and Greaveson will be your top 10 starting order. However, for everyone down from P11s, it will be that'll be their grid slot for race 2. It will be Basson 11th, Andrews 12th, Tomlinson 13th, Watson 14th, Morgan in 15th, Page 16th, in 17th. It'll be Tillotson, Pipers 18th, the other Pipers in this championship, and in 19th place, Terry J. Williams, who's had a torrid evening, finishes 5 laps down.
So then we now have a little warm-up session for the drivers to either take a moment, relax, calm down after that frantic first race and get themselves ready for the second race, or to go out and do some laps. Do you have some drivers like Andrews out looking as they have a few places to make up and will want to make up for that disappointing first race, having started on pole position. Werner Brotolfsson is also out after that disappointment of spinning out at T1 all by themselves. And Terry Williams, who struggled to set lap time in qualifying, also out for some laps. So yeah, nice time for drivers to get themselves warmed back up as we have a little bit of downtime before our second race that will once again go to either 15 laps or 30 minutes, whichever comes first.
Indeed it will. Now, is there a spare voice channel I can use to drag in someone for an interview? Well, Grieveson's not there. Don't think we can, annoyingly. It would be lovely to speak to one of the drivers, but alas, it is not possible. So what we will do is to take a brief pause and just take stock of what is going to be quite an interesting race. And we said last time, last time at Spa we had a safety car. But no safety cars here this evening. We hit the lap counter before we did the race time limit. So hopefully that'll be the same again. It'll be a reasonably fast-paced race. However, anything can happen, especially with this reverse top 10. It'll be mighty interesting to see how those faster guys try and make their way through the field.
Yeah, it will be indeed, especially when they have to fight one another. Just imagine that fight between Grieveson and Aidan Carter, while they're also fighting to get past 8 other drivers in front of them. That is sort of the carnage we seen last week at Spa. We've seen lots of great battles, some moments of disaster, you could say. I wonder how it will fare through this this second race for this evening. Especially when we get to that turn 3, the fast left-hander. Things kind of usually, it's such a fast left-hander, it's difficult to go side by side through there. We did see it in fairness in this first race, but it'll be interesting to see how the drivers fare as they come through there for the first time in the reverse grid race.
Yes, indeed it will, as we are just taking a brief, I believe it's a 5-minute warm-up. Only about a minute.
10 minutes.
Oh, 10 minutes. Oh, no. Well, we'll just have a quick look at, as I try and multitask and get Twitch on the computer. See what's going on in Twitch. See who's been chatting. See if you've said hi. I'm sure we'll give you a quick shout out on the air. For now, it is just another 5 minutes or so. And if any of the admins are listening, feel free to jump in. It'd be nice to talk to you guys. Especially if you're racing in this series, but yes, it's going to be interesting. Thank you very much for everyone that is dropping by. It's a pleasure to have you. Welcome, Horizon Media, Bomba Basson, J_K, Simo V4S, and it's a pleasure to have you all. It's been a fantastic first race. And we will be sure to be getting underway in a very little while. Let's see what they're doing out on track at the moment, shall we? We have got Luke Andrews on setting the fastest lap at the moment, 1:33.9. Have seen quicker, mind you. So for now, he is just getting a bit of practice, isn't he? Really, but for nothing else happening. Loads of people in the pits. Not choosing to come out. We've got the Andrews, Basson, and Holmes, Williams, Andrews, and both Andrews actually, Luke Andrews and Toby Andrews, out on circuit at the moment, as they just take to the track to try and get their best lap times in for practice.
Yeah, we have 7 drivers out on track, taking advantage of the warm-up session, getting some laps in. Luke Andrews, unsurprisingly, setting fastest laps at the moment, running in a little bit deep, maybe just practicing a wide line through turn 1 that they might have to take in battles, or in lap 1 especially, being sort of in the mid-pack, starting from P6, sliding the car through turn 3, testing the limits there. Like through the right-hander, you can see using a little bit of the inside there, on the inside for the white line through the second part of 100R, when sort of tightens up a little bit. Interesting thing to note. And then coming down to the chicane. Of course, these single-seaters, a little more unsettled by the curbs than what you would see from GT cars. He's trying to use a bit of that inside orange curb and over the yellow sausage curb on the exit a little bit too, but not using too much of it. And oh, really doesn't see how much the car bounces over those sausage curbs as they now come through turn 14. Again, experimenting with the exit curbs, seeing just how much they can push them, how much speed they can carry, again at the final corner. And will come up to the line. Has improved in the middle sector compared to their previous lap. Was a little bit slower in the first sector. And as they come across the line, there'll be a 133.531 as they continue to do a bit of race practice on probably, you'd have to assume, 15 laps worth of fuel, getting ready to make the most of the reverse grid race.
Absolutely. See what others are doing. Terry William is 138 at the moment, so unfortunately unable to find any more pace than he did from a last time around. Toby Andrews is practice 1-2 at the minute for Toby Andrews and Luke Andrews. I'm sure that's not going to change. I'm sorry, I'm sure that is going to change to go into the next race, but nonetheless, nice to see them both on P1 and P2, even if it is just a warm-up session with about 1¼ minutes to go before the cars will be gridded up for race 2. Once again, 15 laps or half hour, whatever comes first. Here to go at it all over again, with the added caveat of those faster drivers will be starting in the middle of the pack, pretty much.
The key thing will be to get through lap 1 cleanly. That's what we've seen at Spa. We've seen a couple of incidents that sort of hindered the faster drivers, dropped them even further down the field, and prevented them from getting a good result. It's not just about making your way through the field as quickly as you can, it's about doing so cleanly without incident. Not picking up any penalties will be important for the series. And with turn 1, quite a tight corner, you could say relatively similar to the source at Spa, where we did see quite a bit of chaos. Thankfully, is a little bit more open, especially in the runoff. No gravel there. Well, there is gravel, but it's a lot further out than it is at Spa. It'll be interesting to see how our drivers fare, if we'll see any safety cars as well, as that will take a couple, that'll take away some laps of the race, and give less opportunities for the faster drivers to make their way to the front.
Absolutely. Now, warm-up has now finished. We will now go to the grid for the final race this evening. It is Joe Pinder on pole position, taking that reverse grid with a reverse grid pole position for Vision P10 in the last race. It's Staples, Bottleson, Holmes, Bloomquist, Andrews, Pfeiffer's, Monroe, Carter, Reefson, your top 10 reverse grid We then go down to P11, Basson, Andrews. And it's Tomlinson, Watson, and Morgan, Page, Tillotson, Pfeiffers, and Williams. Your top 19, well, all 19 drivers for this first race. The last race, should I say, as I do believe all the cars are actually now on the grid. That's a very quick grid up for these guys, and we're going to go over lights on. 5 lights will shortly come to the screen. Res rise, and we are away for race 2 this evening. Joe Pinder gets away relatively well, but Philip Staples in the background also trying to make a noise as well. Immediately goes defensive. Will just about hold the inside line. There's cars in the background. There's contact between Bloomquist and a couple of other cars. There's contact into turn 1, and that's a multi-car pile-up if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, I think we might get a safety car from that one, as one car stationary on the exit, just blocking the road. Multiple cars. You can see all the meatball flags on the left-hand side for the timing tower. Both Pfeiffer brothers, Ben Holmes, Staples, Greason, Andrews, all will need to come into the pits to repair damage. Luckily, they will have a fast repair as Monroe goes to the outside of turn 6 to try and take the lead from Pinder, but Pinder just about holds on. Look at the 3 cars all lining up to try and pass Pinder's. Luke Andrews already in second. Aidan Carter trying to follow through. Will look to the inside, but Pinder late on the brakes on the outside. Can get slowed down. A little bit of touching with Andrews 3-second part of the chicane, and Pinder will retake P2. Good move on the outside, and now Aidan Carter trying to thread in, take advantage of Andrews being compromised here to take P3. Dan Tomlinson with an issue in the background, spun on the exit of turn 13, will drop down the order as we can see them recovering. They're now trying to do so safely, not getting anyone's way. Luke Monroe breaking away at the front, over a second lead already. Luke Andrews and Ian Carter slot into line and are fighting side by side. Nearly boxed in there for Andrews, but will just fight get to the inside, and contact between Pinder and Andrews send them both spinning across the start finish straight. That is going to be a return to pits for Joe Pinder, and likely we'd have to say same for for Andrews as well. Yes, they also have the meatball flag. Luckily, or are they able to get to pit lane, or they're going to have to do, Andrews is going to have to do an entire lap before getting back to pit lane with the damage.
Indeed, and that's a car of is trying to get going again, is Joe Pinder. He's going to need to return to pits.
I mean, these cars are doing 250 kilometers an hour down that straight. Spun into the wall at that speed. It's not a soft wall either, it is just Armco and concrete. Yeah, car is going to be fairly destroyed after that. Devastating opening lap of the race, you could say. How many cars have we had through pit lane? I'll need to double check because it was frantic. Here's the view from the helicam into turn 1, 4 wide for second place.
There's contact there. I think the main contact in the background. Oh, it's what's happened is it was a couple of separate events there. It was Ben Hines, Bottleston, Bloomquist and Staples all getting contact, and I think Bloomquist was one of the triggers. He gets sideways. Who's the car in that black and white on the inside, also getting collected there a little bit on the inside?
They got connected. Yeah, they just locked the rear brakes and spun all by themselves, and then you can see 3 cars got into their side pod. Well, 1 car into their side pod, further 2 cars into the back of the queue there, trying to get through. Luke Andrews finally gets to pit lane to repair the damage from the Joe Pinder incident. But yeah, what a start.
And this is what happened. Joe Pinder defending inside
Aidan
line.
Carter goes to the outside. There's the gap there. I think Joe Pinder just starts to move over to the right, and Andrews was already further, very close on the right, on the white line on the right-hand side, and then so the two just came together. And at that speed, especially Pinder getting spun into the pit wall at that speed, car completely destroyed. Will not be going anywhere. This is view from from Luke Andrews now. You can see gap there on the right hand side, and then just come together, and yeah, like that front left tire, just the angle it's at. No wonder he had to come into the pits. Luckily for all those drivers with damage, they have had a fast repair, and so they have got back out. Joe Pinder waiting on the tow time from iRacing, putting them back into the pits.
Absolutely. Just going to try and get another camera angle of that race start, just to see if we can get a bit of a head-on view. Here we go. We're following Bottleston as you go down into turn 1, and you'll get a little bit close for contact there. It's just concertina effect. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars involved in that turn 1 incident.
Yeah, I'm trying to tell who was the oNiD car on the inside. It banged wheels Bittolfsson going into the corner, and then they wanted to turn into the corner but had to turn out because of the car on the inside spinning, and yeah, that kicked all that off. Meanwhile, front Luca Monroe defending the inside into turn 3 from Aidan Carter and holding on to the lead for now, but Aidan Carter is trying to find a way through. He's trying to take the lead of this race and hoping to run away and hold on to the lead to the end, something they weren't able to do when fighting Greaveson for the lead in our first race. Maybe they can do it here in the second race against Monroe. Fastest lap of the race as well for Aidan Carter last time round is good, trying to look to the outside into the chicane, but as we've seen so far, not able to pull it off. I'll have to wait for another opportunity, most likely on start finish straight. Greaveson, after getting involved in that turn 1 instant, has got themselves up ahead of Dennis Pfeiffer's and taken 13th position.
Indeed, that's going to be a recovery drive for the rest of this race whilst Aidan Carter is able to benefit from the spoils of clattered carbon fibre. It's now got a slipstream probably on Luca Monroe here for turn 1. The gap is closing alongside inside line. Monroe, I think, sees it coming, decides to elect not to defend. And that is race lead for Aidan Carter, and see if Monroe can keep up with him following the next few corners.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see here, does Monroe really try and push, try and keep up with Carter, or try to put some pressure back on them, or they just realise, you know, Carter was fighting for the lead in the first race. Maybe they're just a little bit quicker rather than, you know, just settle for P2 and try and hold on to that 1.5 second lead to Blomqvist in third. Tell you someone else who's or a couple of people have won out with that opening lap chaos. Basson and Charlie Morgan up to 4th and 5th respectively. Remember, mentioned Basson just missing out on the reverse grid. Maybe they're thankful and just missing out, considering our pole sitter is effectively out of this race. Second place, which was Philip Staples, is down in 15th. Third place, which trying to remember who's third place. I think that's Bittolfsson, is down in 6th. They seem to be about the only survivor there. Yeah, a lot of the cars that were in that front have dropped to the back of the field, and Basson finds themselves up in P4, coming under a little bit of pressure from Charlie Morgan, who's pushing to close up.
Yeah, but there you have it, is the winners and losers here from the start of that race. A lot of green, but just equally the same amount of red as the new fastest lap. 133.0 was previously held by Andrews in 12th position, sold to the wind. 133.2 is then been beaten by 133.0.
Charlie Morgan closing with the slipstream, gets to the inside as they hit the brakes and will slot in from Basson. Not fighting that one too hardly. He was a little bit later on the brakes initially, but Charlie Morgan just able to release brake pressure a little bit, get themselves completely alongside, and has taken position very close into turn 3. Basson maybe getting a bit of aero wash there, running a little bit wide, and that loss of momentum has dropped them back half a second from Charlie Morgan, who was nearly 4/10ths quicker than Basson last lap, closing up for that move. Wonder if Basson is just going to drop off here. Looks like they're struggling to just keep up at this point, and Charlie Morgan pulling away to try and consolidate P4.
Indeed. The gap still within a second, however, between the leaders. I do have a feeling that Monroe might not just quite have the pace to try and make the move. Adam Greaveson showing us briefly going off track. I think it might just run wide into turn 1. No harm, no foul. But is back out, as we said, after that lap. Oh no, he's a low spin! Oh, commentator's curse. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Adam.
Copying page from Dan Tomlinson's first race with that spin out of turn 3. Maybe pushing a little bit too hard, knowing that they're really far back. Pushing too hard to catch those in front. I mean, it is quite a big gap to the cars in front. For all those had to come through pit lane on the opening lap. Philip Staples trying to attack Grieveson after that spin, looking to the outside of the chicane, but as we've seen before, difficult overtaking opportunity. Wonder if Grieveson now, with having had that spin, is going to struggle on the tyres. Maybe that will cause them to drop down. Philip Staples, Ben Holmes only a second back as well. It could be sort of the end of any chance of a comeback for Grieveson, unfortunately.
And that would be absolutely gutting for Adam. Unfortunately, the race not going his way in the slightest, as the contact with Joe Pinder, which actually seen Joe Pinder retire from the race. Unfortunately, he's elected not to rejoin. He would have had a fast repair, but sometimes I do believe iRacing says he's got too much damage, you can't use his fast repair, so he actually had complete terminal damage. It may not have allowed him to rejoin the session using the fast repair. Up the inside, however, Dan Tomlinson for 8th position. Now we're seeing some cars get a bit more closer to each other and start fighting away, and also 11th and 12th fighting away. That's Andrews and Williams fighting away for position, as we see Williams actually getting overtaken by Andrews. Yeah, unfortunately the other Andrews still fighting away down in 17th.
Yeah, so Luke Andrews up to 11th after that incident with Joe Pinder has 8.5 seconds to catch up to Jack Page in front. And time is running out. We're already halfway through the race. Not much time left for those who have had issues early on to try and fight back, as we see Ben Holmes trying to hold off Toby Andrews through the chicane. Toby's going to look to the inside of turn 13, is going to just about back out of that one. Not far enough alongside, and Ben Holmes shuts the door. But as long as they can stay close enough, should be able to make the move on the start-finish straight with the slipstream, as we've seen so far this evening.
That'll be the next opportunity, absolutely, for sure, as slipstream definitely now coming into effect for Toby. Let's jump on board. As you see the closing speed, he's on the gas, hit 6th gear. Gap is closing. Not as quick as we've seen gaps close in the slipstream to compare to other drivers. Maybe running a bit more of a higher downforce setup, and gets onto the brakes out inside line, and that should be moved done and dusted for now. Ben Holmes may wish to retaliate and try and get that move back past in the next few corners. For now, he stays behind the red, black and white car of Andrews, and the oNiD livery car will also just stay put for now. Grieveson, however, trying to get back past Pipers for 13th position, and up the inside has a run. I think Pipers realises it's Grieveson trying to make the move, lets him have it, gets off the inside line, is in plenty of space, and says, "There you go, old chap, you go and knock yourself out."
Interestingly, that battle between Toby Andrews and Ben Holmes, Andrews trying to make the move, does have the fastest top speed of anyone, and Ben Holmes has the now 4th highest speed, or maybe now 5th. There's some drivers putting in some good top speeds at the moment. Looks like Charlie Morgan has made a mistake. They've dropped down from P4. Basson and Batolfson have got in front. Maybe a mistake through 100R or the hairpin at turn 6, perhaps.
I'm trying to find an answer for you, but our timing app isn't showing anything, which is rather interesting. Let's have a look. Charlie Morgan. Well, we'll see. That's Wayne Basson, and Charlie Morgan's gone off before then. As what's happened to Aidan Carter? Sorry, this is a replay. We're going to live pitch. He's dropped to 3rd.
He's got meatball flag. That's him on the left.
Oh no.
That car looks very damaged. The front left tire's hanging off.
It's gone back to pits.
Back to pit lane. Our race leader, This is them coming through the final corner. They were in the lead by a couple of seconds, just runs a little too wide. The curb unsettles the car, and heavy front end impact. Monroe goes through to retake the lead of this race and being gifted a win practically, Aidan Carter, by surviving the opening lap chaos. They have now thrown the car into a wall and given up the win, where their closest challenger from the first race, Grieveson, is only down in P12, where the pole sitter is down in P10, or I should say fastest in qualifying, and pole sitter for the first race down in P10. Aidan Carter leading the way has crashed themselves out of the race. We go now to a battle for P3. Bertelsen has got a move done on Basson, and with that mistake from Carter, it is now, and the mistake from Charlie Morgan as well a couple of laps ago, it is now the final podium position. Charlie Morgan, though, is pushing, catching up to these three, and is going to have an opportunity, is going to have 5 laps to try and retake the final podium place.
I'm stunned. That's an unforced error from Aidan. He's going to be listening back and he's going to be kicking himself as I'm saying this, but that was too much right foot on the exit curb.
A little too much throttle for just how wide over the curb they were, as we see Charlie Morgan. Easy move with the slipstream past Basson for P4. Onto the brakes into T1. Next up is Bertelsen, who is only half a second up the road. Charlie was a quarter of a second quicker than Bertelsen last lap around. Do they have enough pace to close up, use the slipstream and make a move down the start-finish straight? Both of them have a top speed of 258 kilometers per hour. Basson only 255, 3 kilometers an hour slower. So he might drop out of this battle. You can see the gap's all right up to a second now through this middle sector. And Grayson, having won the first race, takes the fastest lap. Jared Page getting up past Tilton, who I think might have made a mistake, as Luke Andrews is able to follow through and takes P9. I have to imagine it won't be too long before Luke Andrews is able to make a move on Jared Page to take P8. Philip Staples getting passed by Ben Holmes as well for 14th position, as we see Charlie Morgan trying to hold as close as they can to Bertelsen. Try and get the slipstream, but it looks like Bertelsen has had a bit of a better final sector as they come out across the line. 6/10 is the gap. I think it's going to be a little too far back for Charlie Morgan to make a move. Just see what their final sectors are. Yeah, Charlie Morgan 3/10 slower in the final sector than Bertelsen. That's what opened the gap out, but despite that, was again a quarter of a second quicker than Bertelsen that time around. On to the start-finish straight for the Gantries as they try and make their way past Jared Page. They'll have the inside for turn 1, and that should allow them to get the move done.
Oh, does it? He's still there. Still alongside, squeezing to the inside is Page. But then darts to the racing line. Will have maybe a bit of an over-under kind of opportunity here, but I think Andrews gets the car stopped just about, keeps it within track limits. And that is move done for P8, as Williams has dropped a position down to 12th. And I have a feeling that was slipstream assisted for Grieveson to get past. Now 21 seconds off P10. Such is the gap between himself and the car ahead.
That is a lot of time to close in with just 4 laps remaining. We need to be over 5 seconds a lap quicker. To be fair, Tilton last lap did a 1:45.1, which is well off the pace. Hopefully they're got things together again. Is a little spin quickly onto the brakes. Terry Williams stops the car from going completely round. Well held, sir. And will carry on in 12th place with that good reactions and holding on to the car. Meanwhile, further in front, Charlie Morgan is going to retake the podium with a personal best lap, half a second quicker than Bertelsen. They'll have the racing line into T1. Bertelsen looks to the inside, tries to come back, but is too far back to make the move. Charlie Morgan, after that mistake earlier on, gets back into P3, but another oNiD car, Tom Watson, making a mistake at turn 1.
Will try and regain his composure. However, Tillotson and Page fighting away for the top 10 position, as Tillotson on the outside line had the racing line, as Page was actually able to hold the inside line, get a better run through the corner. Going a bit too deep, I think, did Craig for a brief moment, as Greaveson, P11, new fastest lap, 1:33 dead, marginally quicker by about 0.03 of a second. Compared to the previous fastest lap was by Aidan Carter. Oh.
Yes, so all Greaveson can do is make sure that they have the fastest lap of the race, make sure someone else like Luke Andrews doesn't steal it, whose fastest lap is only half a tenth slower. So yeah, that's and with 10 seconds in front of Luke Andrews, that's pretty much the fight for them too, is make sure you have fastest lap. Terry Williams, after that mistake into this turn that we're at now, turn 6, a hairpin. Now under pressure from Dennis Pfeiffer's as well as Ben Holmes, with Philip Staples also closing in to maybe make this a 4-way battle as we're approaching the penultimate lap. Leaders already there on the penultimate lap, but look to the inside for Pfeiffer's. And leaving the door open is Terry Williams, who will let the whole train through, deciding that they do not want to be part of this battle. So who is then going to be the next one to make a move? Will it be Tillotson a little further in front with the slipstream on Jar Page? Will they be able to make a move into T1? They're looking to the inside this time for Tillotson, but look at that really tight line. Can they get the car slowed down, turned into the corner? Look at the momentum Jar Page is able to carry, but nowhere to go with it, with Tillotson being in front. Like, see inside for Jar Page. Are they going to try and come back on the inside into turn 3? It's a risky move, and they do back out of it. Back onto the start-finish straight. Ben Holmes trying to defend P12 from Pfeiffer's, and Staples are moving around, moving to the inside there at the same time. Ben Holmes just in front, but Philip Staples looking to the inside, trying to slow the car down, locks it up and goes for a spin. Much like they did at the start of this race. Thankfully for them, there wasn't a pack of 17 cars behind them to clatter into them, and they will carry on without any damage. Pfeiffer's continues to put pressure on Ben Holmes for P12, who has picked up a slowdown, has been able to serve it through 100R, but that will leave them vulnerable. Leaders have started the final lap, as Tillotson, I believe, has made a mistake. It dropped back behind Jar Page, having just got the move done for P9 just a lap ago. Charlie Morgan having a little bit of a slow lap, coming under pressure from Bertolfsson, who got in front for a moment but has fallen back behind as they fought through turn 1. We see them now coming up to turn 3 as Luke Andrews takes the fastest lap of the race, getting a sub 1:33. We'll have to watch that out. There is only one more lap for those drivers to try and take the fastest lap. Fuel load at its slightest. Hopefully the tyres not too damaged to let them continue to push for that lap. But a spin!
Morgan.
Charlie Morgan going for a spin out at turn 6 will gift Bertolfsson the final podium place. And if he can't get going quickly enough, Basson will take P4. Basson with the run is closing. Charlie has no choice but to leave the door open and allow Basson through for P4. The question is, can Charlie re-attack through the final sector? He's going to try and hang it around the outside here. Can't quite keep an overlap. And the inside for the second part of that chicane. In the background, Dan Tomlinson closing up to make this a 3-way battle. It'll be a slipstream battle down the start-finish straight as long as they can stay close through the final couple of corners. Meanwhile, on the front straight, gifted this win by all the carnage at turn 1, managing to survive, and then Aidan Carter throwing it into the final corner. Luca Monroe will take the race win in our second race this evening. Elvin Blomqvist will take P2, and fighting for P3 is Runner Bertolfsson, waving to break the slipstream as they come up to the line. They'll take the final podium position ahead of Basson, who'll sell for P4, and Charlie Morgan throwing a podium away, not just once, but twice this race, with the second of which being on the final lap. Dan Tomlinson will just miss out in P6, catching that battle on the final lap. Tom Watson takes P7. Luke Andrews, after that crash with Joe Pinder at the end of lap 1, will recover to P8 after a trip through pit lane. Tillotson is closing, but will have to settle for P10 as Jar Page holds on to P9 of this race. Our race 1 winner, Greaveson, caught up in the turn 1 incident on lap 1, will have to settle for P11. Ben Holmes will take P12, and just missing out on the fastest lap is Greaveson by 17 thousandths of a second to Luke Andrew, just missing out on those additional 2 points. Ben Holmes takes P12, 13th goes to Pfeiffer's, and 14th place will just by 44 thousandths as they cross line go to Terry Williams ahead of Toby Andrews. Phelps Stables will sell for P16 as Mike Pfeiffer's will take P17. Aidan Carter and Joe Pinder not finishing the race.
And we breathe. Race win. What a win for Luca Monroe in the most chaotic of circumstances. We'll take the race win from Bloomquist to Bottleson, Basson Morgan, Tomlinson, Watson, Andrews, Page, Tillotson. Your front row starters not even making it back, or even staying in the top 10. Greaveson, Holmes, Pfeiffer's Williams, Andrew Staples, Pfeiffer's Carter, and sadly one DNF of Joe Pinder getting collected in the start of the race, going on to lap 2. What a chaotic race, but congratulations, especially for Luca Monroe on that race win. And that was, I'm sure, potentially unexpected.
Unexpected indeed, especially when we seen Aidan Carter take a lead. We thought that was it. It was their race to lose. And, well, they lost it at the final corner into the inside wall. A shame to end the race that way, having had such a good battle for the first race. But yeah, the one thing I'm surprised that we didn't get a safety car after lap 1. Yes. Very carnage. I am curious to see. I wonder if we could see Aidan Carter's perspective through that opening lap chaos, because that's what put them in the position to win if they didn't have that later mistake. Just getting through that opening lap carnage, so much happened in front of them, multiple cars spinning. That was a real decider of the race. Here we go. Thank you very much. Was actually a very poor getaway for Aidan here. You can see dropping back a couple of places. That's car 9. That's Basson on the inside there. We'll see the spin on the inside. The contact in front just up by, pulls the car up, finds the gap, slots her way through, and up to P4. That would have been from by 10th place to 4th place in just T1 alone. And then having only 3 cars in front of them to chase down. What could have been for Aidan Carter? It certainly could have been a win, but in the end, it is not.
Alas, it is not. We had a full race this week. We had our 2 sessions, and Spa was very much a warm-up week for week 1. So we will say this has been, I said round 2 and asterisk. So we'll call it round 2, and what a fantastic round it's been. We will be back next week for round 3, and because I'm such a good commentator of broadcast, I've definitely thought to check where we are. Scotty, please help.
Next week, we're heading to Mugello. Of course, we've seen this for a social race with Formula 4 cars a little while ago. Very high-speed circuit. Should be a lot of fun in these super Formula lights with the downforce they have and how light they are. Less than 600 kilos, remember. They should be an absolute blast. Racing might be a little bit difficult with the dirty air, but that another long start-finish straight to give plenty of slipstream opportunity towards T1 for overtaking. Will we see more carnage? That's 2 out of 2 reverse grid races. We've seen a lot of carnage at turn 1. Will we see more at turn 1 for Mugello? It's a bit more open this time, not as tight as neither Spa's, The Source, or Fuji's turn 1 here. Hopefully we can avoid a lot of the carnage, and hopefully we can see some more great racing.
Until then, folks, it's been a pleasure to bring you this round of the SimHound Super Formula Lights here on oNiD Community Racing, hosted by SimGrid, powered by SimHound. Will be next live Sunday night for LMU. and it'll be live on for our main championship of the week. Monday, once again back with some more LMU on Monday night. Tuesday will be our AC IndyCar series. Wednesday we'll be back to the academy, and as we said, Thursdays back with iRacing next week. A full calendar of racing for season 6. It'll be a pleasure to see you on Twitch next time we're live on Sunday night. By all means, if you're watching back, you want to come and get involved, do visit us on Discord. The link is on screen. Unfortunately, you can't copy it off the overlay, but type in discord.gg/oNiD Community Racing into your chosen web browser. You'll then be able to go to our Discord. Come and say hi. Come and pester us. It'll be wonderful to have you. SimGrid is our home for our leagues as well. Get signed up on SimGrid and then log in, sign up and join the community on SimGrid, and stay tuned for all of our events. Socials are coming up. We do have some plans. Next season will be announced in the next couple of weeks, I do believe. So until then, it's been a pleasure for bringing you this race tonight, and we will see you all for Thursday iRacing next week, and hopefully see you all for our next stream on Sunday night. Thank you very much. Scotty, again, thank you for your assistance and your commentary skills. It has always been a pleasure, and we will hopefully see you back in the booth next week.
Yep, next week indeed, and as well again on Sunday.
No worries. Thank you very much, Scotty, and thank you to you all. See you all very soon, and don't worry, folks, it's Friday tomorrow. The weekend is just around the corner. Take care, and we will see you all very, very soon.